Hello, my name is John Cleveland, representing Power Up Lubricants. What we're going to demonstrate for you today is a product called Thixogrease made by Power Up. One of the products we're going to be demonstrating against is a lithium complex grease put out by a reputable manufacturer that costs somewhere between $5 and $6 a tube. Now this grease has an OK Timken rating of 100 pounds. I've explained in an earlier segment that this is a modified version of the OK Timken load test. And so this actual machine that we're going to test this grease on was actually designed for testing greases. So we're going to take this case-hardened Timken roller bearing. We've got a case-hardened race. We're going to make a dry run here. And to explain how this machine is set up is these are 1 pound weights, and for every weight that we put on here, we've got a fulcrum advantage of 35 to 1. So for every 1 pound is like putting 35 pounds of pressure on that bearing per square inch. But we're running on the size of a pinhead, and the engineers back at the Marion Laboratory tell me that on a new contact error on that race and on that bearing, these weights can actually represent over 7,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. So it doesn't take a lot of weight to get this bearing to seize up. Let me demonstrate. Okay, we've seized up at 4 weights dry. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this grease and we're going to cover the race. And I'm going to be very generous. We've got that race completely covered with grease. I want you to get a close-up on this race here, and I want you to notice that I've got grease all the way around the race and even in the center here. This is kind of how we test pressure and drip point. Now we're going to turn our roller bearing to a new spot. We've already seized up the bearing. So we're going to turn it to a new spot. Before we do that, let's take a look at the spot that we had so we have something to compare to. Okay, I'm turn the machine back on. We're running on a clear spot on the bearing now. I'm going to take the 4 weights off, and anything over 4 weights, we're going to attribute to the grease. This grease actually took 7 weights, which is pretty good. I'm going to turn the machine off. One thing I want you to pan up on is the bearing itself, and I want you to notice how much grease is actually protecting the bearing. There's very little grease actually on the bearing itself. And if you're looking for what I'm seeing, the grease is actually parted and allowed the metals to get into each other. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this right where it failed. And I'm going to add some Thixogrease. And this is kind of I'm just going to put some Thixogrease on my finger. I'm going to leave the 7 weights on here, and as this bearing is failing, I'm just going to rub a little Thixogrease right in the middle of the race, and I want you to listen to the difference. There's 2 reasons that I do it this way. One is to show you the compatibility of Thixogrease. Now basically, all we've done with the Thixogrease is we've added the Thixogrease into the center. I've left the red grease, and I coated the red grease on the inside of that race, so when we get this thing hot, we're going to demonstrate the drip point. We're running quiet and smooth. After we add the Thixogrease, we're also going to add some more weight. I'm actually going to double the load.